Hello, dear. Welcome to Cyber Mentors and Consultants Limited. In this video, we shall be showing you how you can become a cybersecurity professional without an IT background. It is possible to have a career in cybersecurity, get a good job, a well-paying job, and enjoy a new career. And that is the essence of this video. Most people feel that you need a cybersecurity IT background for you to become a cybersecurity professional, but that is not entirely true. Before we continue, I would like you to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you can be notified when the next video is uploaded. So going back to the agenda for this meeting, we shall be looking at the following: introduction to cybersecurity, how companies implement cybersecurity, the non-IT aspect of cybersecurity, things that cybersecurity people do at work, what are their day-to-day routines. We're also looking at the labor shortage in cybersecurity and how cyber mentors can help you achieve your dream of becoming a cybersecurity professional. Now, first of all, what is cybersecurity? What comes to mind when you talk about security? If you go to business places, workplaces, even on your street, you see security men, on patrol. What are they doing? They are either providing security to the organization, security of equipment, security of people, security of properties. So what are they securing? They are securing human, they are securing people, they are securing physical equipment. But when you talk about cyber security, this time around is both security of people, security of properties, but more importantly, we're talking about security of information that are stored in your computer, stored in your server, stored in your networks. So it is the technology and process that is designed to protect networks, to protect devices, computer devices, networks, and information that are stored from unauthorized access from attackers, to ensure that it is only those people who have access to information have those access because they are authorized to have access to such information. What companies do have sensitive information, they have data, and they want to ensure that those information they are protected from unauthorized people, from hackers, and from people who do not need to have access to such information. So we're also talking about cybersecurity as a part of information security that protect information assets. Information assets. In other words, information or data, these are assets, and also not only the information or data, but the equipment, like computers you use in storing, in warehousing those information and processing those information as well. You also process the network through which those information pass through, either internally or externally. So basically, there's what is called the CIA Triad. CIA Triad, it's confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information. In other words, the whole essence of securing information is to preserve the confidentiality, the integrity, and availability. This is a very common term in information security, the CIA triad. So what is confidentiality of information? It means that only those who are authorized to have access to information are given access. For example, You can talk about giving somebody access to information by giving him a password and a username. And that means when that person has that password and username, is the only person that is authorized to log into that account. So that you are preserving the confidentiality, keeping the information secret. Integrity means that the person who is authorized to access that information is the only one that can alter or change that information, not any other person. Because you cannot change an information without logging into the system. Availability also means that whenever you want to log into that system to access your information, the system must be readily available. It's available for you to use. It's accessible. So everything about cybersecurity revolves around preservation of these three terms. So next, we'll be looking at how do companies implement cybersecurity. So this one, we'll be looking at the P.D.C.A. The acronym for P.D.C.A stands for Plan, Do, Check, and Act. Now, companies, first of all, they come up with a strategy, which is called a security roadmap or a cybersecurity program. How they want to manage cybersecurity. What are the tools that they are going to need? What are the resources they are going to need? And how they want to go about protecting their information and their assets, which is very precious to them. So when they come up with the strategy, the next thing that a company will do is to adopt a standard or a framework. For example, and a good example of such standard or framework is ISO 27001. It can be NIST, NIST, or it can be COBIT, it can be PCI DSS, that's payment relating to payment card industry. So realize also that almost every industry have standards that determine how that industry is run. For example, ISO 27001 provides requirement for information security management system. So if a company wants to adopt ISO, after defining their strategy, the next thing to do is that they're going to adopt a standard. The standard will provide the requirement that is needed for them to be able to implement information security management system, to implement their cybersecurity strategy or roadmap which they have developed. The next thing they do after adopting a strategy is to come up to writing policies. They write policies. These policies most time is derived from the standard. The standard most time recommend policies that the company should draft. You know, policies are like the intention of the organization, how the organization want to go about implementing a particular strategy. For example, you can have a human resources policy. That's a typical example of a policy, and it's an information security policy as well. How people want to hire, the process of hiring, you know, and then how do they going to start and they're going to end the process of hiring. That is a policy, you know. And after, when you have policy, the next thing you're going to do is to come up with procedures. How do you want to implement that policy? And then when you have that policy, then the next thing to do is to enter the next phase. Remember, these first three items fall under the planning phase. In this, what the company is doing now is that they are just planning a roadmap. They are planning, and then these next three phases, these next three things that you do, check, and act, is basically the implementation stage. So this is the planning stage. This is the doing stage. So when you have your policy drafted, the next thing is for you to now implement those policies, implement the procedure, and implement the safeguard. If you have a policy or a procedure that, okay, before we hire, We're going to make advertise. We'll conduct interviews. We conduct background checks. And then when we finally settle for a candidate, we grant access to the candidate into our system. So that is a procedure of how you want to hire, for instance. And then so you now start implementing those procedures in practice. That is the do stage. And then the next thing you're going to do now is to check. Check stage is monitoring performance, monitoring compliance. In other words, those things that you plan to do at this do stage, you check and monitor that you're actually doing them. And this is where you cover things like auditing, testing of control, compliance checking. This is where it comes to play. You need to monitor, to check that you are doing them by checking procedure, observation, checking record, checking processes, communicating with other stakeholders to ensure that these things are being implemented. And then the next stage is act. Act means to take corrective action. That means that when you check and see that there are areas where there are deviations, where there are non-compliances, you need to take action. If, for example, you plan that, okay, you have a policy like a backup policy, that you're going to be backing up your system maybe 3 times in a day, and you check that they are not doing it, they are doing it once a day, that means something needs to be done, because you have to do what you put down in your policy that you want to do. So this is basically a summary of how companies implement cybersecurity. And then let's look at another aspect of cybersecurity. What are the non-IT aspects of cybersecurity? Non-IT aspect of cybersecurity, which is the GRC. G represents governance, R represents risk, and C represents compliance. That's GRC. So GRC is this aspect of cybersecurity that does not require IT background for you to be able to do or perform. So let's look at what is governance. So governance involves the use of policy, rules, and procedure that the organization deploy in running the organization. Organizations are run based on rules, based on policies, based on laws, and based on procedures. So in real practice, when you have decided on what you want to achieve, you come up with a policy. For example, the standard that you want to adopt or the company requirement. For example, policy normally, are derived from the company's own objective, the company's own requirement, what they want to achieve, how they want to run the business, the rules on how they want to run the business. Policies also can be derived from the standard. The standard you want to adopt, like ISO, recommend policies you need to put in place, to write down, to draft. So one of your responsibility as a GRC person is to draft policies. And sometimes when you get into the organization, the policies already drafted. It's for you to just monitor and ensure that they are implemented. So drafting policy is something that is very easy. There are templates out there. You can just Google. For example, if you want to come up with an access control policy, once you Google, you get templates. All you need to do is to just adopt that template. Take off what you don't want, add what you need, and put the organization name to come up with a policy. Remember that this is done in conjunction with other stakeholders. And then, so there are rules that the organization wants to operate with. Then from policies, you get your procedures. For example, I give an example before. If, for example, your organization have a joiners, movers, and leaver policy, which is also known as human resources policy. Then when somebody leaves, part of the policy is that when somebody leaves the organization, you are going to remove the person's access to your system. Now, when you have that policy in place, you are going to do that within 24 hours, maybe, depending on what you have in the policy. And then for you to now have a procedure, procedure will now state the steps you need to take to be able to exit whoever is leaving, perfectly and the provision access of that individual to your network. You can start, okay, when the person leaves, he sends resignation letter, and then the HR will raise a ticket. When they raise a ticket, the corporate IT team will now remove the access. The ticket need to be approved. The corporate IT team removes the access, and you can now check. You as a cybersecurity, you can now check that the procedure is implemented, and you can even check your access log to see that, yes, the person actually has been removed at that particular point in time. And so then in terms, so we'll move to the next one, which is risk management. So it involves IT risk management, also involves supplier risk assessment or supplier risk management. It also involves maintaining risk register. So what is IT risk management? It's about your systems your risk relating to the IT system, to your network. What can happen that will expose your network to outsiders? What are the things that you are supposed to be doing that you are not doing right? For example, the example I gave before, if somebody leaves an organization and his access is not removed, that means the person is out of the organization but can access the organization. That is a risk. So what you are looking at your assets, IT assets. You are looking at your system, your function, and see what can go wrong or what is being done wrong, what can cause problem in the system, and that is a risk. And so that is IT risk management. And then for suppliers risk assessment, you have vendors, you have people that render business like third parties. So part of your role can be to assess what if, for example, they want to onboard a third party. Part of your role is for you to assess what risk the third party or the vendor is going to introduce if they have to integrate its application, integrate its product into your network. The person is going to have access, the supplier is going to have access to your system. What risk is going to introduce? So you have to check, first of all, assess the supplier. How is the supplier managing its own company's security? Are they managing it well? Do they have the necessary control in place? Do they have the policy in place? In other words, if you onboard this client and maybe incorporate or integrate the person's application or software into your system, is it going to bring a problem to you? In other words, so when you assess them, you decide, you give them some risk rating, and they bring it, the risk they are going to introduce to you is low, and that's fine. If it's medium, it's still also fine. But the risk is high based on your assessment of the supplier. That means you don't advise that they should onboard such supplier, especially when the supplier is going to access sensitive information and is going to bring problem to the organization. And then you also have what we call risk register. A risk register contains the list of risks you have discovered as a result of when you check and assess risks. So you document this in the risk register and you keep monitoring to ensure that these risks are over time mitigated by bringing in safeguard. In other words, when you assess a particular risk, as for example, if somebody leaves and his access is still not removed, the risk is that the person can cause problem to your system. It can do damage to your system. So what is the control you have to be? Control is that you want to make sure that when the next person leaves, the right thing should be done within the time stated in your policy. And so we come back to the compliance aspect of the GRC. The compliance aspect of the GRC, we are talking about complying with legal requirements. We are complying with requirement of your regulators, that's regulatory requirement. We are complying with requirement of standards or frameworks. And we're also complying with contractual requirement. So part of your role will be to ensure that you monitor the compliance. You are liaising with other business units, especially for regulatory compliances. We are looking at every company has regulators. And for example, those companies that are in the finance industry or payment card or stuff like that, they have like federal as FCA as a regulator. So each of these regulators, I expect some information from your company, like filing of returns, sending some reports, some questionnaire, for them to be able to renew your license, especially for those who renew licenses annually. So basically, in your organization, you have compliance department. That compliance department takes the lead in terms of meeting the requirement of your regulators. But one thing that happens is that as a cybersecurity GRC person in that company, you have input into the process. The compliance people are going to come to you to say, oh, our regulators need some cybersecurity information. For example, they can say, okay, the regulator want to know if we have access control policy. So most times it's a questionnaire that requires ticking the boxes, yes, no, and then also the regulator want to know if you have any, if you are certified to any standard. For example, they want to know if you are certified to ISO, and if you are certified to ISO 27001, when is it expiring? So they want to see. So in the compliance process, you have an input into the process. And basically, the compliance team takes the lead in this regard. All you need to do is to render support when needed. And also, now compliance also has to do with compliance with legal requirements. When you're looking at the law of the land, the country or whatever you operate, they have some legal requirements that you need to comply with. For in the UK, for example, you have the Data Protection Act, Computer Use Act, Misuse Act. So they have these laws. You also have the like, for example, health and safety, HSC. These are laws that you need to comply with. So your own is to check that these laws are being complied with based on how the laws are stated. And then also when we talk about compliance with requirement of standards, now for every organization, the standard which you have decided to adopt, you need to ensure that this standard, remember that these standards are subject to either annual renewal or renewal every 2 years, depend on the standard. For example, if it's cyber essentials, renewed every year, like ISO, you have to do every year audit or surveillance audit. So what your responsibility is to make sure that all the requirement, everything that is needed, all the documentation that is needed for the company to continually comply or maintain this standard or framework, they are in place. The policies are in place. The policies are reviewed. Audit is done. And all the checks, everything that needed to be done is up to date. So it's your responsibility to ensure that all these requirements are in place. For example, if we talk about, so most time, you also are working with the corporate IT team, the IT people. It is your responsibility to, like I said before, to come up with the policies. It's your responsibility to interpret this standard or frameworks. And whatever the standard wants you to implement, it's your responsibility to ensure that it's implemented. For example, if the standard wants you to have a password control policy, the standard might make some recommendation on what the policy will look like. For example, they can tell you that the password should be minimum 8 characters. So now you write a policy stating the requirement, the password constraint. Password must be minimum 8 characters. It must have a special character, uppercase, lowercase, and it must have a number. So when you do this, it is the IT people that will do the configuration from the back end. They are the one that will configure to ensure that password, that password policy as written down, that is exactly what is being applied. And so you come to the next one, which is like a contractual requirement. Every company has suppliers. We remember we mentioned suppliers risk assessments here. So every company has suppliers. And now, or you have third parties, suppliers, and also your client. for you to have a relationship with any supplier or any company, you must have an agreement, an SLA. And so each of those agreements has terms and conditions. In that agreement, there is a section of the agreement or the SLA, service level agreement or contractual agreement, that has security clauses. There must be some security clauses that are stated categorically in that agreement. These are the things, it's your responsibility to check. Don't forget that the legal team have a responsibility to check that all those legal terms and conditions are okay, are fine, but it's your responsibility to ensure rather that those contracts have security clauses included in them. For example, rights to audit, clauses relating to intellectual property, clauses relating to data protection, how the third party want to protect your data, things like that. So you have to show the standard. Also, this standard also states some of the clauses that should be included, which you are going to check what the standard says, and to ensure that whatever the standards has recommended is included in that contract that your company is about to sign with a third party. So compliance is a broad among these GROC. Compliance is very broad. Then risk assessment as well. And then let's also look at further what cybersecurity people do at work. We talked about compliance management, which you do in conjunction with the compliance team to ensure that everything that the companies has decided to do, there are no compliance issues. Because if there are compliance issues, you may be fined by the regulators. If there are compliance issues, your framework or your standard, may not be renewed. So another one of the things you also do regularly is auditing, checking. What are you auditing? You are checking the same thing I've explained before. It's part of auditing. You are checking your policies. You are checking your controls. Are they being implemented? How do you do that? You ask questions. You observe processes. You observe function. You get evidence. For example, if the access control policy is being implemented, you can check that by checking the access log. Who are the people that have accessed the system at a particular point in time? Are they the same? Are right people that should access those systems? So the auditing requires you ensuring that. So at the end of the day, you come up with your audit observations and your recommendations. So most times you might not even be the one doing any audit, because some organizations, especially bigger organizations, they have internal auditing department or internal IT auditing department. So your role might not even, so it depends on the size of the organization and the kind of job that you get. And then also another thing you do is continuously testing control. What is the control? Control like our safeguards. For example, if you want to sleep at night, one of the controls you put in place is for you to lock your door. Controls are like safeguard, the things, the practices, some of the things that you do to protect yourself. So these are controls that you didn't need to do to protect for example, one of the controls can be you back up your system. That is a control, so that if there's any loss or any damage to your system, you have something to fall back to. That is a control. And that control is that, you do background check for new employees to ensure that they don't have good character, do referencing to ensure that they don't have any previous questionable record. That's a control or a safeguard. So what are you doing? So these controls normally are documented in some of the policies. So you are also many of them are documented in the standard or the framework like ISO that you are certified to. So it's your responsibility to ensure that you keep testing this control over a period of time continuously and ensuring that these controls are being implemented, they are in place, they are being adhered to. And also you also check your policies. What is in practice? Is it what is written in the policies? Is it in line with what is written in the policy? If not, you are going to raise a non-conformance or a non-conformity or like a deviation, so you are going to report. So these are some of your responsibilities. And also we have what is called renewal of the standard. I've mentioned this before, the standard of framework like ISO 27001 that your company is certified to, or as they have renewal process. Some of them, part of the process is for you to even conduct internal auditing. You do a review of your system, you do continuous improvement, you have to provide evidence that you are doing all these things. These are part of the renewal process. External auditors will come to audit you. You will be the one to also show the auditors around, show the auditors what you are doing and all that. And then another area, another thing that you do is incident management. Whether it's a problem, whether it's a breach, whether it's an unauthorized access to your system, you are going to work with the incident management team. You might not be the one heading the incident management or anything, but you're just going to be a part of them. Ensuring that the incident is contained and systems are recovered, and also record a lesson learned. So also other areas that you also be working on is training and awareness. Training and awareness. Most time you don't need to come up with any training slide or something. Your company normally outsource this part of it to third parties, and the third parties provide this platform. Yeah, but it's your responsibility to ensure that people are being trained, in cybersecurity awareness. They are being trained. They are signing up and enrolling in those training and taking part in those training, because you're going to be reporting on your training metrics. How many training have been done, what have been the response so far. Sometimes you can be asked to provide some training like phishing training, creating awareness. Making people to be security conscious, so it varies. Now in all this, how can cyber mentors help you achieve this dream? First of all, we were talking about labor shortage in cybersecurity. There are loads of jobs out there. It's a skill that is in short supply. And most times when you finish your training, you have your CV, and you send your CV out there, you see that the recruiters are calling you. They found your CV somewhere. It's something that we've done over the years, and we have a testimony to show for it. Somebody, you finish your training and do the necessary assignment, prepare your CV, you send it out this week. The following week, you are getting interviews. People are getting jobs by the day. So what do we do? We give you the training. After the training, we help you to prepare your CV. And then when you submit applications, or people call you, when you have interview, what we do is that we book a one-on-one session with you to prepare you for the interview. We look at the job description of the interview you have, teach you, coach you on how to answer those interview questions, mentor you on how you explain the job description to you, and ensure that you understand it fully. And when you get your job, you might be basically, sometimes it's possible that because you may not have had the practical experience. Some of you are scared that, oh, what am I going to be doing when I get there? What will I be doing when I get there? How will I go about? No, most time when you get when you start a new role, you're going to be trained even by employer. They expect that you know something, but they're still going to take you through the process. And in that case, we are also there for you. We continuously guide you when you are given an assignment or a task in your place of work, or you don't even know where to start. You contact us. We will also have sessions with you, review what the things that is expected of you, and be able to guide you on what to do, the steps to take. And before like more than a month or two, you get used to what you are doing, and you settle in. And so these are the services that we render. And this one is just for a little token. Most of the services are even free. And some of the courses that we train people on. Normally, our training is about 5 days. 5 days for 5 weeks. That's 1 day a week. And our training is for 5 weeks, 1 day a week. And some of the things we train people on, like introduction, day one, introduction to cybersecurity and cybersecurity concept. the role of cybersecurity in the workplace, how cybersecurity links with other departments, how do you relate with other departments, the HR, the compliance team, the data protection team, the finance team, what's your relationship with them? Also, we introduce some very commonly used framework and standard. We introduce them to you, ISO, Cyber Essential, P.D.C.A, DSS, NIST. We introduce these frameworks to you. And then the two, we are looking at risk management in detail. How do you design risk program? How do you assess risk? The method, risk mitigation, risk register maintenance, everything about risk management end to end. Then also, so that's the two, we are looking at information security management system, which is for ISO 27001, is the most commonly used framework. So we are looking at what is the certification process end to end? How is it implemented? How is it maintained? How is it audited? What are the compliance requirements? We're also looking at ISO 27002 code of practice. And then the three, we are looking at Cyber Essential, P.D.C.A, DSS, NIST framework, SOC 2. These are also the commonly used framework that you should know. So we teach you the certification process, the implementation process, the maintenance process, auditing process, and compliance process. And then also day 4, we are looking at other topics like introduction to information security policy, how you create policies, standard and procedure, how to create, publish, implement, and test compliant information security policies. We're also looking at conducting information security, internal auditing, and audit reporting. How do you conduct internal auditing? How do you review business continuity, disaster recovery? See, how do you conduct training and awareness? How do you manage threat monitoring? And vulnerability management. These are just briefs. These are going to be taught in more details. And then day 5, we are looking at conducting third-party. How do you conduct third-party risk assessment, which we mentioned earlier? Your vendors. Then also companies do go into a project, and some of those projects involve risk. How do you manage risk in projects? Project development lifecycle. How do you manage change management, incident management, data protection? We also teach you more about data protection and GDPR, data privacy audits. Then on that day, we also review some of the frequently asked cybersecurity interview questions. We take you through the job process, and we answer live questions. We take you through how to apply job specification and how to deal with those questions. We come up with live questions that we are going to answer. And then this course, by the time you are through with our training, you should be able to, the material we are giving to you and the training we are providing you is enough for you to pass this external certification exams so easily. Right? So 27001 certified lead implementer, ISO 27001 certified lead auditor, ISO 27001 certified internal auditor. You'll also be able to pass the IS2 entry level certification in cybersecurity. The training we provide for you is enough for you to pass this exam with so much simplicity. And then our next training is coming very soon. And then for the start date for the next training, contact us. We have our contact details below. Duration of the training takes place, a period of 5 weeks, like I said before, 1 day a week, basically Sundays or Saturdays for like 4 hours a day, UK time, and it's on Zoom online. You can join from anywhere in the world, and our training is not the one you record. There's recorded video that you are going to watch, which is boring for me. It's live. It's instructor-led training session. And at the end of the training, what happens? Each training session is recorded, and the recording is sent to you for further review. In addition to that, we are sending you a lot of further study materials for every topic we train. For example, when we train you on risk management, we send you further study materials on risk management. When we train you on policy, we send you further study materials on policies. At the end of the day, we are going to create a WhatsApp group for all our trainees. a WhatsApp group where you can interact, you can share knowledge, you can send questions. People will answer. We send questions relating to job. Anything you don't understand, you send questions, then we answer. And then so if you want to register for the next training, our details are below. Just text your name, email address, and your WhatsApp number to this contact 0744-028-1097 or email info@cybermentors.co.uk. So that is who we are. Feel free to contact us because our next training is coming up in a number of days, and I don't want you to miss out. So contact us to join the next training, and you'll be happy with it. We'll have a lot of people that have gone through this, and they are happy. Some of them are even coming from healthcare. They are coming from linear jobs, warehouse jobs, and they have, and why would you go through all that, tedious jobs when you have opportunity? As long as you can read and write. Like I said, you don't need IT background. Thank you very much for watching this video. Please, like I said, don't forget to subscribe and share this video, like our video, like our page. Then I'll see you again in our next video. Thank you.